Michael and his girlfriend Sarah were invited along with their friends Paul and Susan to a new restaurant that just opened. They won a competition on the radio and were very excited to be able to walk into a restaurant and order anything on the menu and not worry about the price. They were all students and didn't have much money to spare with all the expense of college. When they all arrived at the restaurant, they were admiring the outside of it. They heard a lot about it and knew it was very expensive, which was another reason them winning a free meal was a great win. When they sat down in the restaurant and looked at the menu, they appreciated more not having to pay as the meals were so expensive. They ordered their food and ate their meals and were really impressed. When it came to desserts, Michael was the only one to order Death by Chocolate. The rest ordered just plain ice cream. They relaxed after the meal drinking coffee. When they were finished and decided to go home, they had ordered a taxi, and while they were waiting, Michael saw a truck coming straight for him and screamed. He was blown off the footpath and thrown across the street as a chocolate ice cream truck ran him over.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster.
Michael knew he could open his eyes now because they would still be across the street, thinking he was ran over and killed. Little did they know this accident had been planned for months by a friend of his who was a stunt driver. The reason he faked his own death was because he owed a lot of money to the wrong people, and he had planned on telling his friends he was alive when it was safe to do so. They worried if his body wasn't picked up yet by a fake ambulance. That was a part of the plan. Then a real ambulance will arrive. But Michael didn't have to worry, because a sign pole that was hit outside the shop by the truck, saying fresh ice cream on sale here, fell and hit him on the head, and he was killed instantly.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares. See me right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt.
Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Ben was relaxing watching TV when he decided to scroll through his phone and was shocked when he saw photos of himself posing with what looked like a dead body in his room. He scrolled through some more photos of him, smiling near a dead body. He not only didn't remember any of these photos being taken, but the only dead body he ever saw was of his grandfather years ago. He froze in shock and didn't know what to do. Suddenly he heard a siren outside his house, and there was a knock at the door. He answered to 2 police officers. 5 minutes later, they arrested Ben in his bedroom where the body that was in the photograph was taken. Ben was in shock, trying to explain to the police officers he didn't kill anyone and he didn't know how those photos were taken, and said they must have been photoshopped. A week later, experts analysed them and were confident the photos weren't doctored in any way. When Ben was in prison, he tried to comprehend what happened. 100 miles away, Jake, his twin brother, that he never knew he had, was writing in his diary. Finally, I got my own back on my twin brother, who didn't even know I existed. He had it all, a big house, parents, and a great upbringing, while I was bouncing from foster parents to foster parents, and most of them were drunk. Finally, Ben couldn't take it anymore and hung himself in his cell. At that exact moment, Jake felt a moment of peace and calm. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Mandy was an inspiring writer who had an agent with interest in a manuscript she had wrote. The manuscript showed potential, but wasn't publishing worthy, were her agent's words. Mandy felt a surge of excitement at the very fact her agent was ready and willing to give her a chance. But her agent stressed that she would have to come up with a whole new manuscript that proved she was a writer that had the talent to write a novel that had the potential to be a bestseller. Mandy was a carer to a very ill world-famous writer. His name was Arnold Starr. He had a string of best-selling novels, and lots of them were turned into movies. Arnold kept telling Mandy that he had his best work hidden away, and only she knew about it, but asked her to give the manuscript to his agent in the event of him dying. He gave her a key code to get into the room that the manuscript was hidden in, and he promised her that no one knew about the manuscript, not even his agent. One summer evening, Arnold passed away peacefully in his bed. Mandy had did exactly what Arnold had asked of her, and put in the code and retrieved his manuscript. She was about to call his agent when a crazy idea entered her head. What if she kept the manuscript and gave it to her agent? That night in her own home, she rang her agent and said, "Hi, I have great news. I am finished my manuscript and I am so happy with it. I took your advice and tried my best to prove to you that you're right, that I have the talent to write a potential bestseller." After the call, Mandy settled down with a glass of wine and read the manuscript. It was exciting and gripping from the opening line. On the last page, she was surprised as she read, "There was a spirit in the house of a girl called Mandy. They wanted revenge for a wrong she did, to get even from something she took belonged to them." Mandy thought she heard a noise in her stairs, but as frightened as she was by feeling a cold sting in the air and what she had just read, she felt forced to read on, so she did. The words staring up at her were, "The noise stopped in the stairs, and the spirit knocked on the door." Suddenly the door swung open, and Mandy was shocked to see Arnold standing right at the door. He looked right at her, and his stare made her drop dead. His spirit disappeared. A few days later, Mandy's agent found the manuscript, and about a year later it was published as Mandy's first and only book, and it went on to become a #1 bestseller, which was always Mandy's dream. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Leah was so envious of her friends because they were able to go to rock and roll concerts every weekend. Rock and roll was really taking off in her town, but her dad was a pastor and said it was the music of the devil. If he had his way, he would ban the music altogether. She just knew her dad didn't understand the music and wish he could feel it like she did. She didn't just listen to the music, she felt the music. Her friends used to tell her of great rock and roll shows they used to go to and explain how great the guitarists were and so much more. Leah used to have a pen pal where they used to exchange photos of Elvis Presley, etc. But her dad happened to come across one of her letters and got mad and grounded her for a whole week. He didn't want her to do anything that had anything to do with rock and roll. When she was in her bedroom, she was so angry at her dad for not letting her enjoy the amazing music which rock and roll was. One summer day, her friends were walking in the beach and they came across a caravan where there was a fortune teller called Mystic Marie. Leah decided to go in. She knew her dad would definitely disapprove, as he said any power humans have for telling the future, etc., doesn't come from God, but the devil. Marie said as soon as Leah sat down, "Something is bothering you. Please tell me what it is." Leah began to start at the start and tell her that her father stops her from listening to rock and roll and going to rock and roll concerts, and she just wishes he could feel rock and roll, really feel it and its effects. She loved the effect it had on her. Marie promised her she would grant her wish. The next weekend, Leah had decided to sneak out to a rock and roll concert, and she had so much fun. Her dad must have had a premonition she would do it, because he had noticed she had snuck out. He went out looking for her, and as he was walking by a cliff, he heard a noise. He turned around to see what it was, and saw a huge rock roll towards him. He screamed as the rock hit him and pushed him off the cliff to his death. When Leah found out what had happened, she felt so guilty and blamed herself, and instantly hated the words rock and roll. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content.